There we go. Now we're live.
Yeah.
All right. Hello and welcome to Politically Incorrect Knitters and live from the Knitting Wars. My name is Ann Pinkova, joined by Neil of Block Magazine and the lovely Carrow Brown.
I'm back. Hello.
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah, so expect nerdiness, people.
Yeah.
Disclaimer.
Yes. We were kind of having nerd talk in the background. It was like, oh, it's going to be so great to knit and talk about nerd crap. Let's go.
Yeah, while Mum's away.
Yeah.
Oh, she's in chat.
Oh, no.
Oh no. She'll know what we're saying.
Mom caught us. No.
No. We've only been live for 49 seconds already.
Man, she quick.
I know.
Isn't she supposed to be at dinner with somebody?
I believe so.
What? You're at dinner watching us instead of your significant other?
What are you eating? Is it good? I'm really food focused. I'm sorry.
Like, send us pictures of your food. It's very important.
Seriously, what does it look like? We've got this chat. You can share them in there. Okay, I'm opening it up right now.
DK says she's always watching.
That's what I tell them at work.
Oh, okay. Speaking of your work, okay,
Yeah.
it's not just the mutant hamsters that are working hard at the Rippaverse. I got it yesterday was the first day of Alpha Core fulfillment.
Yeah.
I got a message at 12:19 at night saying that my package was all together.
Yeah.
Like, that is impressive.
Oh, yeah, they working hard. Like, I was there yesterday, and it was standing room only. Like, all the bins were filled with like stuff that had to get sent out, and we were on the phone with the shipping providers, being like, big truck, not the tiny truck, like big. Like, you're taking it all today. Like, no second trips. So, and it went pretty well as far as I know. If it was bad, they would have told me. So I didn't hear anything. So, but yeah, I showed up yesterday to the warehouse, and I brought like fancy coffee, because they have like, a typical coffee machine in there, but it's different when you get it from like the cafe, right? So
Right.
I went in, I was like, hey, I hate to do this to you, but I need 12 coffees.
And the little carrying cart for it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but yeah, so I had to make 2 trips, and so when I drove in, I had to ask somebody. I was like, I know this like isn't like part of your job responsibilities, but can you help me carry this coffee in? And so he came out and helped me carry everything.
Aw, that's very nice.
Yeah. So
Holy cow. In the chat, Liz says she already has hers, but she lives in Texas. So that's impressive.
yeah, Andrew got his too. That's Caffeinated Wolf. He got his actually. Yeah, he even messaged me like, it's here. And I was like, I'm jealous. Like, I live like 10 miles from the warehouse and I still don't have it. That's fine.
Wow. It has to like go all the way back and then forward to you.
Well, because it was so like here's like how one of my flaws, I have several, but one of them is that I get really bad tunnel vision, right? So when I went to work yesterday, it was like work, time to go home, drive. I got home, time to make dinner, cook. And then like by the time 7 o'clock came around, I was like, I left my order there. Like
you won't be well, no, I was about to say you wouldn't be able to see all your good work. No, you've seen it.
Yeah. No, it was just one of those things where I wanted to bring it home to my husband, because I like to bring him those things too. So, but tomorrow I will probably be there tomorrow, and I will pick my things up and I will take them back, and I'll be like a goblin making out to my car, like.
It's like bringing home the spoils, slap them on the table, like, see this? This is the point.
Yeah. So. It's so exciting, like, and everybody was in like good spirits yesterday too, so it was so good. Yeah, love it.
So I notice you're crocheting, aren't you, at the moment?
Yeah.
Do you knit as well, or is crochet your thing? I can't remember last time actually.
Last time I crocheted, and this time I'm crocheting again. I am in possession of knitting needles, but like every time like I have like the knitting needles, like for some reason I'm kind of like, so like, am I supposed to do it this way or that way? Or it's like, okay. So I will become a knitter at some point, but I'm just going to be a hooker until then. So
That's fair
Like
enough.
you don't quite have hand positions down. Don't.
Yeah. Well, because when I grew up, most of the women in my family always had like some craft that they were really well known for, right? So my late grandmother, my late grandmother was really good at knitting. She would always make everybody sweaters, so she spent all years making the family sweaters. And then my other grandmother was really good at crocheting. And if you ever needed a doily, let me tell you, she had you. Yeah, if you wanted one.
No, my family was the same way in that I had a grandmother, same thing, doily. She always did the very fine, very white crochet. And it was, the joke was that woman crocheted in her sleep. Like she'd be watching TV and nodding off and her fingers are still going. Like she would just do it by the yard. It was incredible. But yeah, that I don't know if it's the same way in your family, but again, kind of same thing where everybody has a craft, but those crafts really don't overlap between people.
I think outside of yarn, they never did. So like my craft was usually like doing some kind of art or something. So I was doing like a portrait or whatever. Sometimes it would be like a landscape or whatever. And man, I'll tell you what, when you tell people that you do art and they don't know what to get you for Christmas, it's always watercolors every time.
Every time.
Every time. Yeah. At one point I had when I was in the military and I was talking to my dad because he was about to, in the military, we have this thing called TMO, and it's the group of people that will take your stuff and move it from one place to another.
Okay.
So TMO was about to come and pick up my stuff from Dad's house after I enlisted. And so we were kind of talking on the phone about what he had. And he's like, "Are you aware you have like 20 pounds of paint?" And I was like, yeah, you can donate that. He's like, "You sure you don't want it?" I was like, "I am not going to use it in one lifetime, I promise." Yeah.
The other thing people do when you're an artist is buy paintings for you, and they're hideous, things that you would never, ever, ever choose yourself, but they think that because you're an artist, you'll kind of like it. And usually what I've been bought is things like art that's about art. You know what I mean? Like paint brushes in a jar, and you think, what? Why do you think I would like that?
It seems
Superman or Batman on a painting. I prefer that.
Yeah, I actually did buy. I didn't buy a painting. I bought a print of a painting. I'll show it to you. I went to the museum. I decided to be cultural. And so this is Martin Heed's painting. I don't know if you can see that with the glare or not. No. Okay, we're gonna take it out. Hold on. Hold, please. Stand by. But yeah, I don't usually buy art very much because I'm like, this isn't a comic book character. Why would I put it on my wall? I don't understand.
Yeah.
But yeah, when I went to the art museum, I saw this print and I was like, that's freaking fancy. I'm definitely going to get that.
Very moody.
Oh.
Yeah. And I think what got me was kind of like the contrast of like the shore and then the storm and the lightning in the background. I was kind of like, yeah, I could put that on my wall.
That's very pretty.
Yeah. What usually ends up happening is my desk starts to be covered by things of people that I like to promote, right? So like obviously I have like work stuff on here. Let me find it all.
Now, if I swung the camera around, which I absolutely will not, I have like this like fat stack of Chicken Lady yarn sitting right here, and like
what's Chicken Lady yarn?
That is our sponsor. Whoa!
Oh, tell me all about them. I know nothing.
No, Lynn is fantastic. She sponsors our show. She does our own colorway, which is beautiful and mauvey. She also did an Isom colorway.
Oh,
so yeah.
I want a Linky. Take my money.
I'll find one.
I've discovered wool spinners on like Etsy, and I can't believe I've lost so much money so quickly. That wasn't a gotcha game, but it happened. It really did. So one of the things I have is the Punisher stuff that was written by Mike Barron, who's one of our writers, right?
Yeah.
So I went and I was like, where are all the Mike Barron ones? And they were like, it's in this one. And I said, give it to me. So yeah, so that was
very cool.
Did Mike Barron do Nexus?
He did a lot of things. This guy's been everywhere.
He's been around a long time, hasn't he?
Yeah.
Also, I would like to say Andrew is the best hype man.
He's so good, isn't he?
Amazing.
And then because I run in the Iron Age circles, I always buy the magazines that Richard does the crowdfunding on. They're doing the 3rd one right now, if anybody's
Yeah.
interested.
Yes,
Yeah,
and
so
I got the year subscription. I have those.
oh,
Again.
good.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I
They're
love
very
it.
good. They're beautiful too if you
He
flip through them. They're
formats
just
them all. He does
yeah.
all he's so talented. I don't know why I get surrounded by so many talented people. Like, you guys are showing me your stuff, and I was like, I made a spinny thing. And then here's the other one from Mike Barron. So he did one called Private American, right? But this one's not like any other one. And the reason I say that is because I got him to sign it.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
He was just like at the office and you're like, hey.
Well, so what really happened was he had been trying to talk to Eric for a while, and Eric's inbox has like 500 in there a day, right? And so Mike was smart, and he reached out to me to Twitter, and he was kind of like, hey, how can I talk to Eric? And I was like, well, give me a minute, right? And so like within that week they were talking to each other. So he sent that to me as a thank you gift, and I was like, you didn't have to, but thank you, it's mine. So, and then I've got Eric Weathers' Battlebrook Road. That's the first one. I haven't gotten the second one yet. But I'll tell you what, like he puts like little custom ones in the backs of these, and they're all beautiful. Like every one of them. They're so good. And I'm gonna be done like shilling out for my accompaniment, so I really appreciate your guys' patience while I do that. Obviously, there's the one that work came out with that I like to like hold and showcase. You know, it's the comic that doesn't exist. It's the fake shill that's got nothing in it.
But Carrow, what's your favorite part?
My favorite part is when Avery went over to the Flash and said, "You're a wizard, Barry." That's my favorite part.
That was a pretty awesome one.
Yeah, I really felt that touched me.
Exactly.
And then I've got the No Restraints play, the one that the twins did for Black Widow. Yeah, so I really like that. And then, Andrew, I don't mean to make you jealous, but I also have 2 comics that the twins wrote, and they signed them. Yeah, I don't mean to make you jealous. Don't be jealous. Don't be jealous.
They're working full time for the Rippaverse now, aren't they?
Yeah, we hired them. Oh, they're so lovely. So we hired them full time, and they're basically like our canon experts, and they're also working with the editorial team. So they're really going to be like hammering in on the consistency and stuff like that. So they finished looking at the stuff for Chuck Dixon's for Alpha Core and some other stuff that's in the works. And if you guys don't know, Chuck Dixon, I'm almost done chilling. This is the last one, guys. Also wrote a Conan book. So, all right, now I'm done. Thank you. I'm sorry.
How do we follow that, Anne?
I don't know. I can't follow that. Your toys are better than my toys, not gonna lie. I'm sorry. You win. Though Katie, who said hello earlier of Periapsis Press, also has her Christmas anthology just came out. So that is a lot of the Iron Age authors from Anvil magazine. Yeah, so I'll grab a link to that one too. Yeah. But yeah, that one's on Amazon, and I think it's $10 for the paperback and like $3 for the Kindle version. So there we go. If anyone's interested.
Yeah, do it.
Yeah.
Support the indies. Yeah.
That's right. It's like
Oh, sorry, go on.
I was just going to say, buy the thing you want in the world.
Yeah, seriously. Like, if you like it enough. So, like, I remember I was talking to one of my friends who's like, yeah, when there's a series, I don't buy it until it's done. I was like, I'm going to let you on a secret. If those books don't sell, the series doesn't finish.
Right.
Yeah, you don't have to read them. You can just collect them and leave them on the shelf. But if you don't buy them, it doesn't get done. So...
And there's nothing worse than absolutely loving a comic that only finishes where it's on a cliffhanger and they never ever come back to it.
Yeah, I always like, last time I was here, we talked about ElfQuest, one of my favorite comics, right? Yeah, we talked about that. And so for a while, I was like, are you guys actually ever going to finish it? Like, because like, I'll say one thing about Elf Mom and Dad, they're always working, right? They're always doing something. But they actually finished like the whole overarching story back in 2016, and the way it ended, it was kind of like Like it was a good way to end it, but I definitely know like some fans were gonna have some strong feelings about it because because it's like this is a fan base that's been around for like 40 years, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and one of the fun things, so like a lot of people, whenever they want to talk about like things or nitpick it, kind of like, well, I need you to give me all the details right away. But people who read fantasy in general, we don't get answers for like 20 years, right?
Right.
Like we don't. We're like, okay, maybe in the next book I'll learn. Like, no, okay, not this one. I'll wait another 5 years. And 5 years come by, it's like, oh, I got one little crumb. Fun.
Well, it's like a lot of the modern Marvel especially, but a lot of modern shows, and they're like self-indulgent, like quote cozy moment sort of thing where they'll show the domestic life of a superhero, but it will drag on forever. And it'll be like little text conversations that you never needed in a comic book. Whereas like older sci-fi and older superhero stuff, you would think to yourself, I wonder what a normal day in the life of this character is like. And then you would get the smallest hint, and that was it. And you had to speculate on your own. You'd be like, oh, there's a crumb. Oh, I didn't know he had a sister. Oh, you have all these different characters of, what do you mean he met somebody, when he was a new recruit and that was a thing? You just get these little like micro details. And now it's like, oh, we will go in detail and we will not stop. Like, too much. Can't do that.
Yeah, Wolverine's a great example of that, where they've gone way too much. Whereas nobody knew anything about him at the beginning, and that's why he was so cool. In the 70s, nobody knew anything at all. And then all of a sudden, every 5 seconds of his life from 1912 or whenever it was. Oh, what's happening here?
See, I think she's getting good.
But look, a dog comes in and we go quiet. We just love watching animals, don't we? This looks like a Wolverine comic to me. Or is it Logan? One or the other.
Yeah, so I remember when this came out.
Origin.
Yeah, this actually wasn't bad. I really did like this. Of course, at the same time, I was like, the mystery is gone. I don't have to read anymore.
Well, what always made me laugh about Wolverine was that nobody even knew what his name was, because now his name is different, because he used to just be called Logan, didn't he, for a long time. And do you know who it was that first gave away, which character first gave away his name being Logan?
No, I don't remember. Who was it?
It was a leprechaun.
What?
In Banshee's castle somewhere in Ireland, and they had this whole issue where it was full of leprechauns, and it was like, how, like, you'd never get away with that today, Ireland leprechauns, of course,
trying to remember. Do they even say his name in here? I'm gonna look it up.
I think it's James, isn't it? His real name is James.
I think that's right.
I was about to say that what's his face always calls him Jimmy in Wolverine Origins, but I think if I mention the X-Men movies again, you will pitch me out of the stream. So I have to kind of be like, well.
Okay, now I just have to look. So it's got to be in here.
John Byrne, who I was talking about last time we spoke, the one who was a bit of a jerk. He's been doing, he's finished it now. He stopped halfway, but he was doing his own version of the X-Men. James Howlett. That's it. I mean, Howl. I hate that when they use names that are linked to their superpowers. And he did a whole retcon of Wolverine. And basically, when he had his adamantium bone things put in, he was basically in a bed for 20 years. So basically he had no origin at all. He had no history of anything. And like when he was, and I loved that. I thought that was really quite clever, because it's like, yeah, if you can't think of anything better than what's gone before, just erase it so that they don't have any history. So his history is in a bed, just staring at the ceiling.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that doesn't sound any fun at all.
Sorry, what's that, Anne?
That doesn't sound any fun at all, though.
Well, yeah. There's only so many drawings you can do of somebody lying in bed, isn't there?
Mm-hmm. Long shadows, longer shadows, really, really, really long shadows. Moonlight.
Can't rotate. Let's go into the dream sequence stuff now. So I asked you guys a question before we went live, and you said we could ask again when we went live. So now I'm going to ask the question. That was my build up. Thank you. How do you guys decide what projects that you end up doing?
Well,
Are you going first, Dan, or shall I go first?
doesn't matter. Go for it if you want to.
Tell me your
It
secrets.
depends if it's me who's like entirely doing the pattern, or if I'm seeing someone else's pattern and liking it.
Mhm.
Because I mean, if I'm seeing someone else's pattern, I'm like, oh, that's great. I'll knit that next. You know, I like the shawl that I'm knitting now for our challenge that we just finished. That I saw this. It's not showing up very well because it's dark.
Oh, that's pretty.
But yeah, I saw it. I'm like, this is stunning. I want to make this shawl. It's huge. It's a little painful, but you know, it's on repeat 4, and there needs to be 5, and it's at like 500 stitches now, and little tiny things. And yeah, it's beautiful. And what's her face? Mystery Mouse Yarn. It's her Pilgrim's Progress colorway, and it's stunning. Anyways, so it's like, okay, I see the pattern, I'm going to make it, I have an idea, go. But I find that if I'm inventing the pattern, like it will take me, either I will have it and done in 5 minutes, or I will have to sit there and think about it for 8 months to a year, maybe longer. Just like, I've had this idea, I don't know, back to the, you know, like, no, keep that back. No, wait, I'll do that. Back and forth until one day I'm like, it's out. There, take it. Oh, and even then, even when I'm like, oh, it's out and I'm working on it, I have to sit there and like readjust and micro adjust and like make sure all of my lines make sense and drive myself crazy, which I am currently doing for your Bitten project, Neil. So.
Well, don't go too crazy. We need you to come back from the dark side.
Yeah, I only have 10 more days to go crazy, so I can't go too far.
Yes, for people watching, please get your finished mitten designs in. We've only got how many days? 10 days, you said? Yep.
Yes. And I mean, okay, so here's... Okay, next.
You're not going to show people, are you?
No, I'm just going to show what I did for other ones, okay?
Okay.
Because I did the hats for the meetup, so I have like the little sample patterns of the Nerdrotic logo.
Oh, I love it.
It's so cool.
Where I'm, you know, I was working it on graph paper, but got to make sure it looks good in knitting first. So there's that. I
still think you should put a white beard on that, and then it'll just be me.
There. It'll be perfect. But yeah, I did the... it's rolling up. But the Mark the Cyborg. And then I had to readjust it to get it as small as possible because this was like a huge pattern for a hat.
This is an example of you doing millions and millions and millions and millions of the same thing, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I don't know how you do that. I can't do that. If it doesn't work first time.
No. Production knitting is how you get good. So,
true.
But yeah, the X-Ray Girl one where it started. Hang on, it's rolling up. It's a mess. Anyways, that I was trying to italicize it at first. Didn't really work for me. Anyways. But yeah, then...
Speaking of the curling up, I saw a video the other day of how to bind off in stockinette so that it doesn't curl up. And it's quite simple. And if I can find the video, I'll send it to you. Because for things like that, it might be worth doing that so that then at least you've got them flat, you know.
Right. So
because what are you going to do with that? You should do something with that.
Oh, I absolutely will do something. I already have like a massive blanket that I did of all my last samples. But then that one, it's like half all messed up. But it is like a queen size quilt size blanket of my previous samples. So I'm stacking my new samples for a second quilt. So it won't go to waste. I'll just have a blanket that has 4 X-Ray Girls on it. So
brilliant. I love that.
So yeah, so this, I almost showed something I shouldn't. These are not wasted time. Is the point. And when and I was mentioning too, so I did the Rippaverse one, and
Yeah. I remember when you sent that to me in a picture, and I was like, "That's so cool."
But anyways, that item has the kind of new logo that they put on the bookmarks, which I love. And yeah, so coming soon to an obsessive knitter near you is me trying to work that into a hat pattern. It's good though. I like it. It's got some clear angles. It's obvious what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It'll make sense. Big fan.
And you know that bit there where it's diagonal at the top?
Mm-hmm.
That, if you do it big enough on the hat, you might be able to work that into one of your decreases so that it will automatically go diagonally rather than having to, do it. Because you're not going to get a nice clean diagonal, are you, with knitting? Because you're always going to have like the little jagged bits sticking out, if you know what I mean. Do you know what I mean?
No.
I know what you mean.
She's going to prove me wrong now. You watch.
Also, Neil, get good.
Now I know what Joe Bob's going on about on Knit Night, where she's always talking about your perfect knitting.
I know. No, one of my favorite gamer phrases, no, not that one, is, "Oh, I think it's a skill issue."
Oh, yeah.
You gotta.
Oh, Anne, your face was way too smug then. Way too
I know. that Joe was talking about, different knitting techniques for better tension. And I'm like, yeah, just not an issue with me. I'm sorry. I just
in the military. In the military, we call that an ID10T error. So this is one of those things where if I put it in the private chat, you'll understand why.
Oh.
Yeah.
You could say that out loud, I think.
Oh, okay. Well, here, I'll just type it. The ID10T error. I'll show you guys. So ID10T. Okay, there we go. I realized I could actually talk in the chat, and I was like, oh, wow, I can be part of the group. Yay!
Well, we do have a thing called an idiot chord in knitting, don't we? An I chord, so we can still say that.
Yeah.
What's the idiot chord? As I don't know. Like, you guys have no idea. Like, I'm like, oh, look, I found some yarn, and I can, like, do a thing. Look, I made a triangle. I feel really accomplished.
That's cool. That's really good. Yeah. Well, you're not a beginner, because beginners can't do triangles.
Oh, I watched a YouTube video, and they told me how to do it.
Well, there you go. You're now an expert at triangle crochet.
I'm a pro.
You do this
forever. People watching, if you need to learn how to do a triangle crochet, come to Carrow.
Yeah.
Oh, and we were saying too, after you were previously on, it's like, you said a little bit that you recently started crochet. We never said, hey, why did you start crocheting? Why did like the normal crafting questions, like what got you into it?
Oh, we went straight into comic books. I was totally fine with that too.
You're like, let's go.
Let's go. I'm ready. Yeah. So I'm always like, I always like to push myself as a person, like, and try different things and like kind of jump out of my comfort zone a little bit, because I think that's really good for you as a person. And I've never actually been good at crochet. I tried it once when I was younger, and every time I would try and make a doily, it would somehow become a bowl, right? So it wasn't my thing. But I decided this year was going to be the year that I gave it a shot. And actually, one of the fun things that happened, because I ended up kind of enjoying the meditative process of it, or at least the way that I do it, is I ended up drafting a book, and it's called Stitch Witch, and it's about a witch who does witchcraft with yarn. So,
fun.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, that's why I got into it. There's a couple of different stitch patterns that I've been looking at, and I'm always like, I want to try that, but then like I watch the video, and then they start using terminology, and I'm like, man, maybe not today, maybe next week.
I tell you what, you should try and do. I don't know whether you want to mix your interests though. Is amigurumi, because then you'll be able to create characters from your comics that you like. So amigurumi is like where you crochet in spirals.
I've seen
and
that.
It's that you only need to know one stitch, and once you can do that stitch, and as long as you can go in a circle, and increase and decrease, which you'll learn, is quite simple. You could make anything 3D at all.
Yep.
This is a whole new
I'll
world. I'm so
I'll
excited.
send you some info on it after.
Yeah, that
Well,
will be my 2024 project.
Because it's always the way it looks way more complicated. What you're doing now is more complicated than amigurumi,
Oh, okay.
but it just looks the opposite way around. You know what I mean? Amigurumi looks complicated, but it's not.
Okay.
I would get people to start with amigurumi rather than doing granny squares. You know, if I was
Oh.
teaching them. So
Oh, I thought granny squares are easier.
well, they are, but they are and they're not. You know, there's a lot more to learn in a granny square, like having to go around a corner. You know, it's
Mhm.
not that simple. You know, it's not what's the word, intuitive. Whereas with
Mhm.
amigurumi, you're literally just going around in a circle. You don't have
Okay.
to worry about corners.
Okay.
People in the audience will be like, "What's he talking about? That's
He's
rubbish."
teaching me. Give me your wisdom. It's good. I like it. Thank you.
well, as I was saying before, like crocheting, it's like, well, I can do the basic, single crochet, and I can do a granny stripe. I do not know how to turn that corner. So see, you're
Yay! Something I could do and can.
yay! Like I
Now I
don't.
can be smug. Can you drive round corners though? That's the important thing.
Well, I am a woman, but
Oh, speaking of which, I've just read some news just before we came on. And Anil kind of, well, I don't know about Carrow, whether you'd be interested in this or not, but it's quite dark. It's a bit of news that came out from the fire service in the UK. And what they've done, they've fired 13 firefighters, 13 men, for being misogynistic. Now, that isn't the issue in itself. What they are now fighting for, this is people in the government, are fighting for them to be blacklisted from working forever. So basically, it's like, what? For being misogynistic, you want these people to never be able to work again. You don't even do that to murderers. You know, once they've served their sentence, they can get a job. You
no,
know,
you don't even do that to the Yorkshire police, who probably deserve it.
So this is definitely the whole communist thing, isn't it? Because that was part of their thing, wasn't it? Like the and also the what was it called? The McCarthy witch hunts, you know, with the actors and stuff and the writers, they were blacklisted forever, weren't they? So I just couldn't get over it reading it, and that nobody seems to understand that if it happens in the fire service, it won't be long before it then happens in the police, and it then happens in NHS nursing and so on, and it'll trickle down. So that if you say one thing wrong and you get accused of anything, that's it. You'll never work again. Right. It's like crazy. But anyway, I don't know why I brought that up. I think somebody just, oh, you said something sexist, didn't you? That was it. Yeah.
Oh,
You know, like it's and you know, the thing is, like, you don't even know like the full details of like anything that's involved with that, right? It could have just been somebody who was upset and just threw out the term to get the guys fired, and they're like, not good enough. I have to destroy you. Right.
Or it could have been 13 men that were literally harassing a woman in the workplace.
Yeah, it could have.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it, exactly.
it could have been legit. Yeah. But you know, going around and saying like, okay, well now we're just gonna screw you over forever. Like that's not the fix either, because like from the government standpoint, and I hate to bring this up, but you can't really tax poor people, right? So,
well, yeah, it's just another person who's going to be on welfare.
Yeah.
But the MP that's really fighting to put this through, somebody said, but you know, surely that's, you know, condemning these men to never being able to work again. And his response was, well, that's not my problem. It's like,
that's about to be.
Let me tell you, you have a country that. Sorry, you're
say it. Don't worry, I'll believe it. Whatever you say, I believe. Go on.
Well, don't. That's a little too wide of an angle. No, but okay, you have a country that has, what was it, in the 90% level of people who don't get jail time for rape, or like you call up the police and my house has been robbed, and they're like, oh bummer.
Yeah.
Like, so are you gonna follow up? No.
Oh, what they do, if your house has been robbed, or if any kind of crime that is where you'd want a police officer, they just say, oh, we'll ring you back tomorrow with a crime reference number. And then if they do, you get a crime reference number, and then that's it. You just get a number. And it's like, what's that going to do?
Is it a ticket number, or is it like, a helpline number?
No, it's like it's like the number of crimes kind of thing. So it's like just a number that they give you. So you're, I don't know, number 17, but it's a long number. But all that's for is so that you can.
Why do you need the next day for a number? Can't you have like a little ticket counter for like, if you're answering the phone and you're like, oh, well, your complaint number 937. I'll put it on my notebook.
But that means that takes away a job from somebody else the next day, you see. So there's obviously somebody in an office that their job is just to ring people up with these numbers. But the number is just there to prove that you rang the police. That's it. So, so if you're robbed, it's so you can give it to your insurance and say, I was robbed, and that's it. They don't even attempt to catch the criminal, ever.
I don't think I mentioned this the last time I was here, but I actually lived in England for 7 years.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh, where? Yeah. Whereabouts?
I don't know if you know where it is, but it's like it was a little village called Erith, in Peterborough.
I know Peterborough, but I don't know the village. Obviously.
Yeah. So okay, I don't know if you can call it a village because it doesn't have a pub. So like that was like my thing, like no pub, no village, right? But so I lived there for a while, and at one point, I had a cell phone in case my parents needed to get a hold of me, and I was doing the military school, so like the bus would come to my village, pick me up, and take me there. But at the time, because I was like the only kid out in the boony area, I had to drive like the whole 10 miles to my bus stop with my parents, and then the bus would come and get me from there. So I'm telling you all that to tell you the story. So the bus dropped me off and my mom wasn't there to pick me up, right? And so I tried to call home, and when I tried to call, like nothing happened, right? No signal, no nothing. And so I tried to go to the pub that was across the street from the bus station, which makes a lot of sense. And I rang the doorbell and stuff like that, and they were kind of like, "We can't help you." And I was like, "Look, I'm not trying to be rude. I'm stuck out here, and I'm just trying to call home." And they were like, "Well, and they closed the door on me, and I was like 15. Wow. So I don't know if it was because of my accent or something else, because I know sometimes in England when people hear like the American accent, they all have different reactions to it. And so I was like, okay, well, I guess I'm gonna start walking. And so I started walking the whole 10 miles home on the road, and I got 1 mile out before my mom came out like a bat out of hell. And she's like, "Why didn't you call me?" And I was like, "I did. I tried to call you." And she's like, "No, you didn't." I was like, "Yes, I did. Calm down." And I gave her
right here. I hit the numbers.
Yeah, and I gave her my phone to try, and she's like, "What's going on?" And so, my dad, when he gets home, he hears the story, and he calls the provider, and he was kind of like, "Hey, I was just wondering if you could, maybe get a technician to explain to me what's going on." And so they said, it's like, "Oh, well, your daughter doesn't make any outbound calls, so we decided to turn that feature off." And my dad had like a quiet moment. What? He was like, "Yeah, no, that's what they told him." And he was like, "Listen, I'm about to tell you something, and I want you to listen to me good," just like that, right? My daughter was stranded out in the middle of nowhere, could not call for help. Now, if my daughter had been raped and stranded out in the middle and could not call for help, I'd be coming and talking to you face to face. Turn it back on.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah. And then he was like, "And since I got you here, you can go ahead and give her a month free." And they were like, "Oh, we don't really do that." It's like, I don't care.
Wow.
Yeah. Oh no, my dad is usually like really gentle, but like at that point it was kind of like, "Oh man, he angry." Like, Daddy really angry.
Well, I would like to think that, especially the people in the pub, I would like to think that they are an exception rather than the rule. The only thing I was wondering is, was the pub? Did you go in? Do you know the people in the pub?
No, because like I'd only go down there to go to the bus stop.
Right. So
yeah.
Was it a man by any chance, or was it a woman?
A woman.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
I was just thinking if it was a man on his own, he might have thought, "Oh, I'm not letting this."
Oh yeah, no, I wouldn't. Yeah, I wouldn't have faulted in that, but it was just like, I just need a call. So
see, that's awful, isn't it? I think if any kid came to your door asking for help just to make a phone call, if it was an adult, you might be a little bit more, but a kid, if you know that why, I don't know. Sorry
Yeah.
that happened on behalf of everyone in my country.
Oh,
I
you're
would like to
fine. Like, I
apologize.
never took it personally. It was just like one of those things where like my dad and I, because we're very American, and so whenever we would come across like strange British decision making, we'd be like, we're so confused. Like, we don't understand. Like, we've lived here for 5 years and we still don't get it. So
Yeah.
yeah.
The thing about the UK, well, Britain, is that everything is different literally 10 miles down the road from everywhere else.
Mm-hmm.
So even, where that happened to you, you can guarantee if you'd have gone further north, people would have been much more friendly.
Mm-hmm.
The more south you go, the more unfriendly they seem to be.
Says the northerner.
Absolutely. But I have lived in the south. I did do that for quite a long time, and it was shit.
Yeah,
And Peterborough's a funny place. Peterborough's an odd place, I think.
May I ask, because I don't know, at what part of England is that?
It's kind of east, isn't it? It's above London.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of Midlands-ish, but it's south of the Midlands, but it's on the east.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hard to explain. Sorry, yeah, I should have let you explain because you live there,
It's got a train station that takes you everywhere. That's kind of handy. We like that.
Nice.
Yeah, you can get to London pretty easily from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So when I used to live there, my American family would come over. They would always be like, "We want to go to London." I was like, "Listen, I can take you anywhere but in like London. Like London is exactly the same. We're gonna get in the car. We're gonna drive for 3 hours, right? Then we're gonna be on the tube for another hour because that's how long it takes to get to where you want to go. You're gonna get all the way to Buckingham Palace. You're gonna realize you can't go inside, and we're not booked for tours, right? And then you're gonna go over and climb on the water feature because you can at least like touch that. And they're like, no, it's gonna be different. We're gonna go 4 hours, 1 hour, Buckingham Palace. Everybody's on the water feature every time.
I always say to people if they're coming to the UK, don't bother with London. Get out of London as fast as you can. If you have to go, just get out of there. In fact, I'd keep out of all the cities really, because all the cities are just cities, aren't they? They're all pretty much the same, really.
Mm-hmm.
Everywhere,
Well, I was able to take I took one branch of the family when they came over because we did go and do like the tour of the tower that was there.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, because we were never really able to get booked for that, and then we stood on the Ferris wheel for an hour. So, and this was before smartphones, so and I wasn't allowed to bring a book, so I was literally just sitting there for an hour while this thing like took its sweet ass time.
Yeah, I went on that once, and I was like, "Why? Why did I bother?" It's like,
what was it?
Once you've seen the view, you've seen it, haven't you? That's it. You just stare at the same view.
And we went to the Millennium Dome when it was a thing, right? They tried so hard to make that a thing, right? And we were kind of there prior to like the death throes of them being like, maybe this isn't working. But they gave some kind of like, I don't know if it was a grant or an offer, but they were like, oh, we'll have like the little Yankee children come over to the Millennium Dome. I bet they'll like it a lot, right?
And so Americans get enthused about things.
Yeah, they seem to like this weird shit. Maybe we can get some money from them, right? And the only amazing thing that I really liked from the Millennium Dome was the McDonald's that they had there. Because it was like the most amazing thing to me. Because first off, like American fast food in England is complete shit, like every time, right? Because we're used to it being American, and then for some reason it's different, and you can't identify why. Just like how Coke in America is different from Coke in England, like
See, that's funny because a few years ago I was in New Zealand, and American fast food in New Zealand was fine. Like they had meat pies at the McDonald's.
That's cool though.
Yeah, they were pretty good.
Yeah, I know the Coke is different because we had that talk when I was taking a chemistry class, and they talked about like the chemical difference between the two sodas, and the reason they do that is because of the regional preference for taste and stuff like that. Yeah.
Well, this is a bit like the chocolate thing that I mentioned the other day because Hershey's. I keep going on about
Hershey's.
Yeah, well, they put something in Hershey's that we can taste in the UK, and it tastes of vomit. So it's the same like Parmesan, whatever that that flavor is.
Yeah.
And we don't have that in our chocolate. So that's why Brits hate American chocolate.
It's complete shit. And I'll tell you why it's complete shit. Because I went to culinary school and I know things.
Carol, have you done everything? I'm just asking.
Well, I did some soul searching to try and figure out what I wanted to be as an adult, and I haven't figured it out. But along the way, I went into the military. I worked at a bank in the call center. That was my personal hell. That's where I learned to develop tough skin against angry people. I went to culinary school. I tried to do the culinary thing. The only reason I quit was because I went 2 weeks at one point without seeing my husband, and I love to cook, I really do, but I also love my husband, and it was like I'm not gonna do one and not the other, right?
Yeah.
So I just kind of okay, this was great, not gonna be my quality of life. So I was able to talk to the VA, and so because I'm technically disabled under the VA, they said I could go back to school under the voc rehab thing. And the thing with that is that they make you pick a job that's kind of in line with your ability. So, and also has with a higher rate, because they don't want you to go get a job in underwater basket weaving and then nobody's hiring for that, right? So they put me in for special education to teach special education teaching, right? And they're like, there's always going to be a need for that. And I was like, okay, cool. I like job security. That sounds smart, right? And then I also decided to get certified in math because if you're a math teacher and you work in SPED, they're always going to hire you. There's no getting around it. So I did that for 5 years, and I really liked it. But then in 2018, when the height of teaching, I guess we'll call it that, really hit the tension point, I was like, I love the kids and I like what I do, but I don't like this. So I just resigned. And I decided that I was going to go ahead and go get my master's, right? Don't do that. But I decided to go get my master's, right? And no, because the thing is so when you get a master's in teaching, you're pretty much saying I only want to work in college at that point, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the way that pay works in the American teaching system is that if you have a degree that's in line with what you teach, right, then they'll bump you up in the bracket. So it's like time in service versus education level, that kind of thing. Yeah. And I didn't really want to go in deep in my pedagogy about special education because ivory tower theory doesn't really go into classroom very well. And I decided if I wasn't going to keep teaching anymore, but I really did like working with people with disabilities, I would go ahead and do the clinical psychology route. So I went into the years with that because I really liked working with people who were diagnosed with autism and actually people who were diagnosed with PTSD. Now I know on the surface, you're like, what the heck is the Venn diagram on that? It's actually a lot. Because one thing I can tell you about vets is that vets don't like changes in their routine. They like their environment set up a certain kind of way, right? And they're also very particular about what it is that they eat, how they eat it, and who they eat it with. So they have a lot of focus on routine for settlement, right? And they both get triggered by random different things, right? One is PTSD related. The other one just kind of was born that way, right? Mm-hmm. So I wanted to do that. And the whole reason I actually didn't follow through with that is that I was in, so I did most of it online, but you have to go and do your practicums and your internships and stuff like that, right? So I went to go and do one of my in-person sessions, and there was a group of us there, and we were all doing classes and doing practices with working with difficult people by us being difficult to the other person, right? Okay. And at one point I was there, and there was another woman that was there, and just textbook narcissist, twisting the language around, making it seem like it was your fault, all that kind of stuff. And I don't mean she was pretending. I mean, that was her. Right. And at one point she had made the statement of, well, all white men are racist. And I was like, well, hold on, sis. I was like, hold on, because in one breath you have insulted my husband, my father, and my grandfather, and all of which are not racist. And she's like, well, studies have shown. And I was like, okay, so this is grad school. You have to cite references. What are you getting it from? She's like, well, studies. I was like, when was the study done? Who was it done by? What year was it done by? Because we're not doing outdated shit here, right? And so that went back and forth for a little while, because this might surprise people. I love the men in my life, right? I will fight for them. So, and what ended up happening is that when I had a moment to kind of semi-cool down when I was doing this engagement, because the instructor was not getting involved with it whatsoever. You don't get in a fight between two women. You just wait for them to be done and just kind of sweep what's left into the dustpan and take it to the nurse, right? That's what you do. And I looked around, and it was an entire room of would-be professionals, right? They're all women. And I was like, not one of you are standing up for your brothers, your fathers, your grandfather. Like, none of you are doing it. Like, not one of you. So I got really pissed. I got really angry, because if you can't stand up for your family, you cannot stand up for your patient, your client, who is fucking dependent on you to help them make good choices, right?
Yep.
And so as soon as I got done with that session, I called my advisor. I was like, switch me right now. And they're like, well, you're not done yet. And I was like, that's fine. I don't care. Switch me. What else can I switch into? And they're like, would you like to go into industry organizational psychology? I don't know what the fuck that is. Go ahead and put me in it. Right. So, and basically industry organization psychology is kind of, I thought was actually really funny is, I'm sure you guys can probably talk about it a little bit. And I did not mean to take over your entire stream, so I'm really sorry.
Go for
It's all right, don't worry.
Yeah. But one thing that folks thought was, hearts. That I thought was interesting is that his name is Simon. He wrote a book about, he's like the guy to talk about like industry organization psychology. And he was doing a talk one time, and he said, I found out that I had a really high turn rate, and I was very confused, because the guy that's supposed to talk about making great healthy workplaces, like having a high turnover, he was like, I don't understand what's happening. Like, they're all getting paid good, they all have good hours, everybody seems happy with their job, exit surveys say that they like everything, I don't know why they're leaving, right? And so he went around and he did like some snooping, and what he found out was that because people they work so much, right, they don't actually have support networks or outside circles that they go to kind of for their support in general, right? So what they were doing is that they were unloading on their coworkers, right? And so they were, yeah. And so those people were basically kind of like, man, I just want to talk about this thing that's going on with my mom, and it's really bad, and blah, 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 blah. And some people just can't like carry like that extra weight. And so they were getting burned out, not from the work or anything related to it. They were just getting burned out from their peers. So I was like, that's amazing.
No, I've worked in situations like that. And okay, thinking of the psychology thing, my mother very briefly was going to be a psych major, and then she realized that she didn't want to hear about people's problems for the rest of her life. And she's like, nah, I'm done. I don't like this. And kind of the same thing too, where you look at all these other people who are like, these are supposed to be the people who are helping you. Yeah, you're the worst jerks. Never mind. I'm gone. Like, why does anyone go to a psychiatrist? I've been in a class with them. No thanks. And that
my theory on that is any caring industry, the people in it are the least caring people ever. Especially the other staff to each other. They might care for the people they're supposed to care for, but they'll be evil with other members of staff.
Yeah, and that has to do with the secondhand trauma that they actually experience on a base. So, you're talking about like teachers and nurses and stuff like that. They may not go through the trauma, and psychologists. They may not go through the actual trauma that the person's going through, but because they take so much of it in, it kind of ends up kind of like wearing down on them a little bit. And a lot of people, whenever they're hurting, what they'll try and do is they'll kind of vent at a safe source that they know that they'll be forgiven for. We talk about this in teaching just a little bit about when children act out in classes and stuff like that. And one of the things that we found is that some students will act out with certain teachers because they're trying to they don't know how to, I don't want to say the word cope because it has a negative connotation to it. But they don't know how to release it in a way that we have learned as adults to kind of what most adults have learned how to do. So what they're doing is they're just kind of experimenting. And sometimes what they do is they take it out on a teacher, and the teacher is not quite sure what to do with it. Right. But the student also knows that the teacher kind of has to forgive them no matter what anyway. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. So it's like the teacher has to see you again tomorrow.
Yeah.
In most cases. Yeah.
Yeah. So. But yeah, and so psychologists have a lot of secondhand trauma. Nurses, doctors, teachers definitely do because they get all kinds of things. Social workers, absolutely. That's why those social fields, have such high turnover because they're all burned out. And there's a really fantastic book. I'm nerding out. Please excuse me. There's a really fantastic book, and it's called The Body Keeps Score. And the thing about this book is it talks about people who go through trauma or go through secondhand trauma, and about how, because they don't learn how to like release it or say no to it, what ends up doing is it causes an illness within the body, usually related to it. So fun fact, a lot of actors who get some kind of like tumor, cancer, or whatever, they either get a brain or they get a throat, right? The things that will affect their job the most. So their memory and their ability to enunciate, right? A lot of women who are very empathetic and want to carry on, like, who are like, "Oh, talk to me, honey, like I'm here for you," kind of thing, always develop an autoimmune disorder. So it makes them susceptible to illness.
Huh.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, that's weird.
And is that in that book?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they talk about that.
Oh, I'm going to read that.
It's really good. Yeah, The Body Keeps Score. I ended up reading it because there's a guy that I like to listen to, and his thing. So his name is Gabor Mate, and he's a Canadian psychologist, and he talks about how rejection as a child shapes you as an adult. And he's also one of the group of psychologists that also talks about how like the conditions of the mother will affect you as an adult as well while you're in the womb and developing. One of the examples for that is during times of poverty, when mothers don't have a lot of food, the babies that they produce are made to be in a world of scarcity, which is why the children who are born after that period, if there's abundance, they all become immediately overweight because they were developed to not have a lot of food around. So he talks about that. But in the book,
there you go. That's why I'm fat. It has nothing to do with me overeating. It's all my mum's fault for starving when she was pregnant.
No. But the Gabor Mate kept citing that book, and I was like, I can't listen to the rest of this. I can't listen to Myth of Norma without reading this book. So I literally stopped that to go read that one. So, yeah.
Wow. So what did that have to do with vomit-flavored Hershey's?
Oh, well, we talked about how I've done a little bit of everything, right? And so I was about to tell you about my culinary school thing. So the Hershey's actually, so you can't melt it, right? So you can't use it for anything. If you put it in a pot and you try and like kind of temper it like you would normal chocolate, it doesn't do it whatsoever because it's only full of sugar and it's full of air. So when you start to break it down from the mold, it bleh.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. That's very interesting.
I'm here. Yeah. I got to talk. Thanks.
So don't buy Hershey's, people.
But say I've never tried to melt Hershey's before. The whole.
You're gonna have to try it now, aren't you? You're gonna have to see what happens.
Just put it in a glass bowl in a microwave and just kind of like do it like every 30 seconds and try and like stir it. You're gonna see immediately what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Well, I.
Sounds like plastic.
It is. It's so bad. In fact, when I grew up, before I went to England, I really didn't like Hershey's because it tasted like plastic to me. And when we moved to England, and they're all like, "Oh, let's go to the confection place down the corner," and I was like, "I hate chocolate," right? Which, when you say that to a chocolatier, they're like, "Challenge accepted," right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so this person was just kind of like, "You don't like chocolate?" It's like, "Nah, it's not my thing." He was like, "Have you tried this?" And I was like, "I don't even know what it is." And I ate it, and then I went back to my mom, and I was like, "I need 10 quid, please." And she's like, "Why?" I was like, "Don't ask questions, just give me the 10 quid." So I went back and got more, and he was very smug.
That's proper money. Can't just be throwing around 10 quid right and left.
Yeah. Do people know what a quid is?
Oh, well, I got the paper one, but it's basically the currency that you use in England. So
yeah, it's like the equivalent of a book, isn't it? You would say book, 10 books, wouldn't you?
Yeah. It's like, can I get $1? Can I get $1? You got a buck? Yeah. Of course, your quid is worth more than ours. Or it was. I haven't looked at the exchange rate recently.
I think it still is, but not by much. It's
right. I
it used to be
the
double
days,
at one time.
Yeah. Yeah, when
now.
It used to be double. And
yeah. When we were the kings of the world.
When so
I think we're quite kings of the world like 10 years ago. I'm just saying.
So after 9/11 happened, because that's when I was in England, I was kind of watching the news with my dad, and I was like, "Hey, I'm gonna go close out my bank account," And he was like, why are you going to do that? It's like, well, I'm going to take the money and I'm going to exchange it into quid and I'm going to go put it in my British bank account. And he's like, why are you going to do that? It's like, well, we've got this thing going on. Our economy is going to fall and I really don't want to lose the value of my money. And so if I wait until like it starts to like get at its lowest and I can go ahead and take that money and re-exchange it. And my boyfriend and his dad was with me at the time. He's like, you need to marry her. Like, don't, like, I know she's 17, but like, it didn't happen. But that was like a fun thing my dad likes to remind me of. So.
Well, it's funny, before 9/11, everybody was told to exchange their money for American dollars.
Yeah, it was really close. It was really close then. It was like, I think it was because it kept going up for every dollar, it was either 97 pence or it would go up to like 101 pence. It really like kept going back and forth. But like I remember watching it like start to go down, which is when it was like yoink. So yeah.
So what was sorry, I need to talk about Britain now. What was your the British people that you met, what is the weirdest thing about them and what was the nicest thing about them?
I ran into a Welsh lady who spoke Welsh at me and I didn't know what she was, and I think when I met her I was like 14.
Thought she was possessed.
I didn't know.
Welsh is such a weird language.
Even when she wasn't speaking Welsh and she was talking to me, I still didn't understand what she was saying.
I need subtitles for this one. I'm sorry.
I was like, I have no idea what she says. Like, I have no idea.
But every now and again, there's an English word in there, isn't there? Like,
like
television.
Yeah, Playboy. I was like, what? I guess that was the kind of strangest thing.
Strangest thing, the Welsh.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we all agree
Welsh
here.
lady. Yeah, this one Welsh lady. Let's see. The best thing, I think, I lived there for 7 years. I liked a lot of it. I always liked the reenactment stuff, the historical stuff. Yeah. Like we would go out to like all of those, and that was like really where I got kind of more into history because like reading it from a book, watching them actually try and charge the wall, I thought that was really cool. The really cool thing though, because again, they're always like, and bring the little Yankee children over if you want to, was when we were reading A Pilgrimage to Canterbury, we actually went to Canterbury. So we got in the bus and we did the whole drive. And I think after we did our pilgrimage, I had a deep appreciation for older buildings. Because like when I walk into like fresh new buildings, they feel kind of hollow and like there's nothing there. But if you walk into something that's been around for like 100 years, like there's substance to it, right? And I remember that really hit me in the face when I walked into the cathedral. And then ever since then, I was always kind of like subtly aware of it. So that was the really cool thing, the history involved. I used to go rock climbing when I was in England. My parents wanted me to like join some kind of social group so that way I could like learn to talk to people. It didn't really work very well, but I did learn
on a cliff edge.
Yeah. So
Hold
it was
on!
like, it was like, I'm trusting you. Please don't drop me. It was one of those things. But we went out. I can't remember where we went, but the cool thing is that I was sitting there and I was doing all the safety harness stuff. And so I was on the rock face trying to figure out how I was going to do a knuckle grip. That's what they call it. So that way I could get higher up. And I feel a shadow. And I look up and it's like this guy. He had to be like 87 years old, right? And he's just like some freaking monkey just like going across the wall, right? And he's working around us like we're in his way. That was really cool too. I'll never forget that. So,
did you ever get up to Manchester, where I am?
I think I did. But if I did, I would do it with my family, and we were there for like a real quick trip.
Yeah.
We we did a lot of trips back and forth to Erith. If you remember where that is, or if you know where that is.
Erith sounds like it's Scotland, but it probably isn't. I don't know. I don't know Erith.
No, I think it's close to York.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, because my mom used to live in York, and so her family was close to there, and we used to have to drive 4 hours out there on the A1.
York's lovely, but it's hard to get to. There's no sort of motorway there, is there?
Yeah, no. But yeah, I used to really like going out and seeing them and like doing the walks and stuff out there. That was always nice.
Well, Anne, if you ever come to the UK, you need to go to York and kind of pretend you're in Hogwarts land, because there's parts of York that are very Hogwarts.
No,
Mhm.
well, some of it's filmed there. I know what's his face on the Bakery Bears did a little bit about that. But yeah, well, I'd love to go to England so much. Mr. Gary from Nerdrotic did my perfect trip. I mean, there'd be other things I want to see too, but see the British Museum, high, wave, and then get out of there and go to Oxford. I would love to see the gold buildings of Oxford and all of the little colleges and all the bookstores and things. And then you have, Tolkien's grave and stuff. But I've watched a lot of Inspector Morse and a lot of Inspector Lewis, and like actually being there might kill me. It would be so cool. Like I just fall over dead and they'd be like, what is this American? And they're like, she actually saw a courtyard with the little college student quarters and she died. She saw someone with their little sink inside their dorm room, and then she was like, I'm over, I'm done. It was
I've never been to Oxford. I've never been.
Really?
I've been to Cambridge, but I've never been to Oxford. I think I've been through it a few times on the train, but never actually. And I think I've been to Oxford train station to change a train, but I've not seen anything.
I don't think I've been there either. Yeah.
Yeah. It's. I do know the architecture there is amazing.
Trip.
Yeah. Yeah. What Americans won't understand about the UK though is how we don't travel anywhere. If it's more than half an hour to an hour away, we never go.
Well, because the roads are so crazy. Because we're spoiled here. Because we have like a grid system and a freeway and stuff like that. And of course, like the A1. Well, I guess they expanded it, but like every time I've gotten on the A1, it's like, okay, well, there's 4 hours of my life gone. I better put that audiobook in.
And for me, I'm like, oh, they're not playing Godzilla in my city or town or whatever. It's not big enough for a stay. So I'm like, got to go to the big town 45 minutes away. We'll make a day trip of it. We'll have lunch. It'll be great.
Yeah, that's what you have to do. Like you're going to the movies, like, okay, let's figure out where we're going to have lunch and then that. And
right.
Yeah.
We'll do some Christmas shopping. It'll be fantastic. And Neil's like, 45 minutes. That's good.
What? I'll wait till it's on TV for that.
Yeah, and then it was like, I don't know if it's like that now, but like anytime there was like a movie that came out in America, it's like, okay, we'll see it in 3 months and it'll make its way over. It'll be great.
I don't think it's quite as bad as that, but I remember it used to be like that because you used to. But what was funny is that like if it was a kids thing, especially the toys were in the stores before the film was.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
And that was like the weird thing. It's like, well, why would I want to care about that? And then everybody wanted it, because America had it,
Yeah. So sorry. When I was in New Zealand, I
don't think anyone wants to know what happened in New Zealand.
Come back. And
sorry.
Wait, come to my voice.
Okay. Sorry, I should have said from the outset, every once in a while my internet craps out, and because I'm in charge and not DK, like this might go catastrophically wrong. So, if we just straight up die, it was probably my internet.
So New Zealand, you were just about to say.
New Zealand, no, that when I was there, it was when the last Hobbit movie was playing in theaters, and it played in New Zealand extra long because they're extra proud of it. So it was like one of the last showings of the last Hobbit movie, and it was in this tiny, tiny shoebox of a theater. Like, I've seen people's big screen TVs that are proportionally on par. And that was like, they had the little, they had the thank you New Zealand at the beginning of the movie, for being such a good sport for all of these films. And it's like, well, it helped their tourism and stuff. But yeah, that was fun. And seeing Hobbiton is actually worth it. Sincerely, that's one of the things too, that I know it's just part of it's me being a major nerd, but like actually, something that you've seen on screen a million times and then suddenly you're there is like mind-blowing to me. It's like, like mental shift. And
that was how I felt when I went to America. you know, when like LA and San Francisco, I remember the streets of San Francisco. You're probably too young to remember that. With Carl Malden, do you not know?
Not familiar with that
Well,
one.
we used to watch that every Saturday. So it's like when I went to San Francisco, it's like, oh my God, this is the streets of San Francisco. And LA. See, Hollywood was a real letdown, I have to say. A real letdown. I thought it was going to be far more glamorous than it was. It's one of the worst places ever, isn't it? It's like the pits of anywhere. Sorry, people who live in LA. Yeah, but it's the same with anything, isn't it? Anywhere you've seen films being made, it's because did you know now that apparently parts of Manchester look more like old New York than New York does. So they tend to film a lot of old New York stuff here, like all the 1940s Captain America stuff was filmed in Manchester, apparently.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I missed all that. I didn't see it, but apparently so.
Well, it must have been a really easy drive for Richard Armitage, who was a Nazi in that scene. Sorry, he's one of my favorite British actors. So when he was in Captain America, I'm like, I know him. He's dead. Guess it was not a long role.
Oh, I remember at one point my family and I were trying to figure out how we could go to the Bennett house that was in the BBC Pride and Prejudice. It was like, do you think she'll just let us go touch the house? Like,
yeah. She just walk up in.
Yeah. Like, I know it's your house and everything, but can we like touch your stuff?
So one thing, I mean, I know you came to live in England, so you won't have this, but when you were young, did you think that everybody here lived like people like in Pride and Prejudice, like in big houses and things like that?
No. So like, I didn't really know what to expect when I moved initially because it's a military family thing. So we're kind of like, don't have expectations, just go. So all I really knew was that British people drank tea, and that was not a disappointment. Like that was still a thing, right? So my dad married, a British woman, and one of the first things that was mandatory in her side of the family is that I was to watch the BBC special of Pride and Prejudice, right? I want to let you know, to a 13-year-old, that show makes zero sense. It doesn't. Well, the reason it doesn't make any sense is because of the dialect and the diction that's used, right? And then when they're talking about like, oh, let's go to the ball and dance, and you're like watching them like 13-year-olds, like, that's not what we do at the spring dance. Like, that's no wiggling or anything. Like, what's happening? Like, I'm so confused, right?
See, okay, in my family, sorry, I got BBC Pride and Prejudice a little younger than that.
Oh, okay.
Because my mom, I mean, huge, well, actually, both my parents, huge British literature fans, just like love British history, love my dad's more in British historical fiction sort of thing. So the whole Wellington and Nelson and all of that, like very, very precise. But so like things like Pride and Prejudice, Persuasion, other things, my mom would just watch Wives and Daughters all the time when I was younger. So it was just like background noise to a certain extent when I was very young. And then later, yes, Holly, yes, I love North and South with Richard Armitage. Flawless, beautiful, perfect. Not to go off, a little disappointed because recently he came out as gay. Ruins the movie for me slightly, but besides that, I'm ignoring that because it's such a great film.
It didn't happen. Reject it from your reality.
You know what? He's an actor. I don't need to know anything about his personal life. No, but because of that, like I guess because I was used to that as a kid, and it was kind of like a shift when I was into teenager mode from just like, oh, that's just a movie that is commonly watched, from no, wait, I'm into this now, and I'm actually, reading the books, and I'm getting this, and I'm like absorbing the historical whatever. So
yeah, I think at the time when I watched the show, like my reading experience was like Archie's Sonic the Hedgehog, right? Like that was it. Like that's all I would read. Right. And whatever mandatory school book was there at the time. And I don't remember how my family managed to cut this deal with me. But I think it was actually part of my allowance or something. But I think it was like, if you read more, we're gonna do XYZ. And so I was like, that sounds fine. And so after I remember when I started high school, that's when I started reading a lot more. And the librarian was very amused because I basically started from A and was working my way over to Z like the entire time I was there, right? I read a lot of Stephen King, and I definitely did read all of the Jane Austen books at that point. And I remember, I think after I read Sense and Sensibility, and then I went to go reread Pride and Prejudice after that, it made a lot more sense when I was reading it. But I know when I took honors English, like even the kid, like my class was actually struggling because they were trying to follow along with like the diction. But I think by the time we got to like chapter 2, like it had clicked, like their brain could do the switch at that point.
Mhm.
But yeah, it just takes a little bit of time.
Did you have an English accent then?
Nah, I talked a lot more like this, and I'll let you know when British people hear you talk a lot like this, they think you dumb fuck, right? So I went to England with a heavy drawl, and my mom tried very hard to help me by changing like my pronunciation for A's and E's and stuff like that. But you can't really get rid of it completely. So this is pretty much the effect of England on my southern drawl.
What was your favorite TV show when you lived here?
Oh, well, it was Doctor Who. I love Doctor Who. Yeah, Doctor Who was great. I fell in love. I saw the Ninth Doctor, and I was like, he got bad guy face. Like that's all I kept thinking. But I love David Tennant. He was so fabulous. And then, was it Munster? I don't know. It was one of like the daytime like detective shows, and my dad and I used to joke, being kind of like, they can't have a high population because like 3 people die a week in this place. Like, what's going on?
Oh,
right?
not Midsummer Murders, is it that?
Yeah, that was it. Yeah. So we were like, yeah, man, there's like 3 people that die a week. Like, what's going on? Like, how do they sustain their population?
Yeah,
we were doing
Morrison
that.
Lewis is the same way, where it's like, you're just in Oxford. How many professors can die per year?
Yeah.
Well, the Midsummer Murders, they kind of make a joke of it at the beginning, where you see the population numbers going down and down and down.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a little bit like Murder, She Wrote. You know, like what's the odds of some woman everywhere she goes, somebody dies? Why is nobody pulling her in for questioning?
Yeah, seriously.
She's
Stop inviting Miss Marple
behind it all.
Yeah. Stop inviting Miss Marple to your house. Just don't do it.
Don't do it. It's gonna happen. Yeah, and then when they brought Batman Beyond over there, my dad and I got confused because we knew it was called Batman Beyond, but like in England they kept calling it Batman of the Future, and it was like, why? Like that makes no sense. Yeah, that's what they call
the animation. The animation.
Yeah. Batman of the Future. And then they wouldn't even play like the opening intro of it. They would have like the city, and then they would have like the part where Terry McGinnis has got his arms up in the air, and then put Batman of the Future, and then launch into the episode. So.
Yeah, there's a few weird things like that. Like, why do they have, like, I think I talked about this before. We have TK Maxx, but you have TJ Maxx.
We have TJ Maxx, yeah.
And ours was called TK Maxx because they didn't think we were clever enough to be able to tell the difference between TJ Maxx and TJ Hughes, which is a different store. It's like, well, that stupid, really.
Oh, you know what I used to really like? I used to like the Red Chef diners that you guys had out there. Those were always so good. Or
Red
I think
Chef?
it was called Little Red Chef or something.
Oh, Little Chef.
Little Chef, yeah.
Oh,
it was on a red sign.
Yeah,
it was so good. It was so good.
I've never been in one of them. Never.
And we used to stop on the way, because when we go to visit my grandmother, we would stop by one because it's a 4-hour drive and we get hungry, and my family doesn't do well when we're hangry together. So yeah, those were good. Because you guys have Tesco as well. And we have a branch of Tesco out here, we did. It was called Fresh and Easy for a while, but it didn't take off very well, except in like the super bougie areas.
Here, I'm going to pause you for a moment and say hello to New Zealand.
Joe. Hi,
sorry,
Joe.
I almost said New Zealand, Australia. Hi, Joe. She's going to kill me for that one, for real. We're going to.
Oh, they're all the same.
Oh, yeah.
They all talk funny and live upside down.
Yeah, that one. And their seasons are all wrong. It's crazy.
Oh, yeah. So now that Joe's here, and I think Liz is here, isn't she? Liz Clothier. So I say decal. What do you say?
Also say decal.
Yeah, and Carrow, you say
Decal.
yeah. So I don't think anybody in the world says it that weird way that you said in your show the other day.
The decal.
Deckle, that was it. Yeah, like freckle. Deckle.
Yeah. No.
Oh, a fun pronunciation thing that I keep running into that my mom hammered into me is that instead of saying herb, we say, I say herb now. But now all the American people make fun of me because I'll say herb and it's like, what are you talking about? I was like, I'm talking about herbs. And like, what herbs? Like the guy? Like, no, the thing that you put in the food, and I have to like hold it up.
Yeah, that is so weird to me the way Americans say herb.
Yeah. Because there's an H in it.
But then other words with H in we don't say.
That's the French. That's why.
Mm.
That's why. Aluminum name.
Yeah, don't get onto that one.
I still remember the first time I heard aluminium on Top Gear, and it like stopped me dead in my tracks. Like, what is this? What just came out of my TV? That was not a joke.
What was it? I used to kind of like wonder like why people had like weird opinions of Americans when I was in England, because I was like, when we're there we seem kind of polite, right? Like that was my thought. But then I realized that the access to the main television TV that they used to have was Jerry Springer and Judge Judy. So I was like, no wonder you think we're fucked up. Like this is all you see.
Like, America, you have really weird problems.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I grew up with Roseanne. So they were like a typical American family to me.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, The Simpsons, they're typical American family. What was before that? Bundy. What was he called? What was that show called?
Married with Children.
Married with Children. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and then there was Family Matters.
Oh, I know the name, but I can't think who. Was that the same character?
No, that was with Urkel. Urkel was
that
also
rings a
the
bell.
voice of Sonic the Hedgehog, the animation show, and that. Yeah. He did another voice. I can't remember what he did, but he was so cool. I was really sad when he passed away.
So, okay, this is a very, very recent fact to me, but one that completely blew my mind. That the Kurgan from Highlander voice acted Mr. Krabs and SpongeBob.
Oh, the bad guy.
Yeah.
Oh, he's been in so many things, hasn't he?
I love it when
that
he goes on Star Trek though, because they always have him on Star Trek at some point. He's always so good in that.
I don't remember. I, as a teenager, was a huge, huge Star Trek fan. Like, it was at a point in my life where I still had like regular cable TV. And so, I mean, like, Captain Kirk and the rest of it whenever I could catch it. But it was, the time slot was right for me to watch Star Trek Voyager. So I saw Star Trek Voyager 2 episodes every weekday for like years.
Yeah.
Was Voyager the one with Janeway?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the only Star Trek thing I ever watched. It was the only one I liked. I didn't like any of the others, and I don't know why.
Yeah, I've heard everybody.
Sorry.
No, I was going to say that, and everybody rants and raves to me about how good Deep Space Nine is. I saw a couple episodes intermittently, but again, at the time, it was a time slot thing. I'm like, Deep Space Nine's on the wrong time of day. I just can't.
My thing with Deep Sleep Nine is that I can't really care too much about an airport in space very much, and that show really didn't take off until Worf showed up, and the actor started to have an influence on kind of the direction of the show, and then of course the show got a ship, so they were leaving the airport.
Right.
Have you seen what Elle's just put about? I always say a name wrong. As soon as I saw it written down, I realized.
Oh, Jane, not Jane away.
Yeah, send Jane away.
I remember when she showed up in Next Gen, and she was like a freaking firecracker. Like she pissed Riker off something fierce, and then she shows up in like Voyager. And I'm like, who tamed this kitten? Like, what happened? Because like she got like, that was so good.
Well, I didn't realize. I watched an entire season of Orange is the New Black before I realized that she was the one who plays that character called Red. I think they call her Red, the Russian one.
I haven't seen it.
Have you never seen? Oh, okay.
No.
You need to check it because she looks so different now.
Right.
Obviously, she's aged like people do.
Yeah, but
Never.
never. What? But yeah, Star Trek is one of those things where it's like I was so into it for so long, and then I got distracted by other things, Doctor Who and Marvel and the rest of it. I'm like, I want to go back and watch Star Trek, but it's like, you know, when you fall into addiction again and you get worse the second time, that's how I feel like it would be for me. So it's like, oh, I can do the occasional Star Trek movie and watch a little, you know, Captain Kirk and have a great time, but it's like, I don't know if I can get out of that pit again. I don't like, I love Star Trek. Star Trek's fantastic. Everyone should watch Star Trek, but I'm like, I don't.
Well, the thing I have with like, I was actually just talking about this with Andrew. One of the things I don't really like about the new Star Trek that's kind of come out, and it's, you know, since the creator passed away, that's when you can kind of see the tonal shift that happened. The earlier stuff, so Star Trek and Star Trek Next Gen, you never had interpersonal issues with the crew, right? Because the whole mission, the whole idea of Star Trek was like these people from different walks of life have come together and they're working together in every capacity to go forth and explore or address challenges together, whatever, right?
Yeah, no, that Kirk and Spock and Bones, they can bicker and have disagreements, but they are never not on the same team.
Yeah, they're always together, right? And a lot of like the interpersonal drama that would happen would usually come from an outside source. So like when Worf stuff would happen, it would be because he was talking to full-blooded Klingons who were like, half-breed, blah 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 blah, right? So that kind of stuff would come up. But if you go look at the stuff that's come out recently, it's nothing but like internal squabbling, which like I know if he was still alive, he would have been like, no, if any of that had gone through his desk. And like Picard's a really good a good example as well, not of Star Trek, but of what I'm talking about, because in this future Earth that we have completely resolved, we have world peace, right? We figured our shit out. We got world peace. We don't have poverty. Everybody's getting food. And now we're focusing on the greater mission of going out into space and seeing new things.
All of the French people have British accents. Truly a utopia.
Yeah, it's great. And then, but in Picard, suddenly people get illnesses again, right? Suddenly there's poverty. There's these real world things that we have that are now in the show. But according to Star Trek lore, we figured it out. Like Q would have just been laughing at us the entire time. He's like, "You're working backwards, monkeys. Good job." So, but yeah, part of that's why I really feel like the idea and the vision of Star Trek is like really taking a pitfall, because they forgot that was the core mission, the core idea of the whole story, and they just left it. So,
right.
Well, yeah, because one of the things, isn't it, is that, you know, Chekhov was a Russian in the middle of the Cold War, you know, when it was actually, you know, you had the first black member of the crew who was a black woman who, you know, wasn't it the very first interracial kiss on TV between her and Kirk? The whole point of that was to show that they were beyond all that, wasn't it? They were beyond those silly things between races and countries and whatever.
Yeah, and so here was the fun thing, because the actress that played Uhura in the original Star Trek, she was actually going to resign, right? She was going to resign from the job because she didn't know if she could keep doing it, right? And she went into her dressing room one day, and Martin Luther King was there, and he got up, and he was like, "I've been, you know, really looking forward to meeting you. My kids and I, like, we were so excited to see you on there. You're doing such great things for us." And she said, "Well, I'm thinking about giving it up." And he's like, "No, don't do it. You have to stick with it, like no matter what," right? And so after she got done talking with him, you know, she kept the role, and then she went off to go do other great things. Because one of the things that NASA actually had a lot of hard time doing was getting women to be interested in working for NASA in any capacity. So she was part of the ambassador program to, you know, see if she could, you know, women would want to come and work at NASA. And unfortunately, not like some women do want to work for NASA, but most of them don't. So that's kind of why those numbers are usually low. But it's not because, you know, they're like, "No, you can't come in." They literally were like, "Come on in. We want you to go to space with us. Let's go."
Like, please come to space. We need someone to wear the space mini skirt. And women are like,
yeah.
You have to kiss aliens.
Yeah.
It'll be fun.
Was she the blind woman in Deadpool? Did she play, or was that a different actress?
I think that's somebody else. I can look.
Was it?
Yeah,
I don't think that's her.
Is it not
What?
her now?
No, let's look it up. Deadpool cast. I have the internet.
You have technology.
I do.
Wow, these youngsters today. You don't even have to get an encyclopedia off the shelf.
No. Let's see. Cotton Club. Let's see. She was an Apollo. Not in Star Trek. Nat King Cole. Oh, she's been around though. Holy shit. She was in the Muppet Show. This bitch is fucking fat. Whoa.
Well, everyone's been in the Muppet Show.
And she played Blind Eye. Okay, so 2 Weeks in Another Town, Skyjack, Black Girl, Poor, Pretty Eddie, Sugar Hill, Deadpool, Deadpool 2, Nanny, American Fiction, Deadpool 3. It's the only reason we watch it, right? She was in I Spy, Roots, Sizzle. She's been around. Oh, she's in The Cosby Show. She's only in one episode, though. Family Guy as herself. Okay, that was me. Thank you.
So she wasn't in that then?
No, that was not her.
So,
Good talks.
good talk. But yeah, I keep trying to get this is horrible and gateway drug of me, but I keep telling DK that, for her kids' homeschooling, they need some Star Trek. They need some Star Trek original series. It's very important for a child's development. You have to kind of get that bit of imagination of, hey, what happens if you're on an alien planet? And they're like, but gladiators are okay. And you're like, no, they're not. And you have to argue out that point. That's very good.
Mhm.
Star Trek teaches great things like the power of friendship. And sometimes you just got to beat the space lizard with a rock. And
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you don't need the stun gun. You just need a freaking rock. Like, oh.
Did you ever
need to
see
go for
the Black Mirror episode that was like Star Trek? It's my favorite one. Oh, if you never, please watch it. You don't have. It's just one episode, and I can't remember how he does it, but it's something where he can take people. He can clone your consciousness, and then he puts you inside his own little fantasy world, which is a Star Trek ripoff, and they live in this world then forever. They can't ever get out of it, and it's really good episode.
Oh, that sounds like the Twisted Bartley episode. That's what that sounds like.
Oh, I don't know. What's that one?
Oh, Lieutenant Bartley, he was the one that had the holodeck addiction. So, because he couldn't cope with actually working with, like, in the real world. Yeah, so he kept making up this fantasy stuff in the holodeck. Yeah.
I think that's him. I think that's it. Yeah.
Sorry. That's something my dad, who's in the chat, hi Dad, would always say. That's just like, shut down the holodeck already. All the time, everybody's trapped in there. Everybody's in the weird fantasy world. They've turned off the safety for some reason. Someone's really going to get shot. Why? Why would you have this feature? And there was so much of that in Star Trek Voyager when they were like speculating because Janeway was like falling in love with this holodeck Irishman. And she was like, whoa, man, maybe this isn't such a good idea. And it's like, it's okay if it's real in your head. And what? And or that some aliens would steal the holodeck and then everybody's in, World War II Germany for some reason, because space Nazis are brilliant Star Trek tropes every single time. But it just like, why do we have this technology? I think we should stop. I think we should unplug.
Yeah.
What are these comments in the comments? Surprisingly, so your dad has put her, just her, and says he's put broccoli.
Oh, that was his name.
Oh yeah, with Broccoli.
Barkley. Yeah. Yeah, because I made that too, because I had a hard time saying his name at one point, so I'd always call him Lieutenant Broccoli instead of Barkley.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
The guy from the 18. Yeah.
I used to so one of the things I like to do is I like to play like MMOs and stuff like that. So like World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14. If there's a new one that comes out, I'll like give it a try, right? And then I'll leave. And as a writer, I also like to dabble with the role players on those servers just to get kind of like a feel for it, right?
Right.
And I'll tell you what, like sometimes I'm kind of like, you need to log off. Like you've got like some Barclay syndrome going on. Like you are too invested. Like none of this is real. This is a video game. But
Well, like you talked a little bit about, in England, seeing reenactments and stuff. You get that in reenactment groups too, where you're like, honey, you're not actually a knight, whoever. You work at McDonald's, okay? And you're having a good time, and I appreciate it, and you're good at what you do, but also need to step away from the role playing.
Would you remember that thing called Second Life?
Oh, it's still a thing.
Is it? I
Yeah.
actually joined it, and I just remember sort of this whole environment running around it with nobody else there. And I don't think I was actually in it. I think I was kind of in the bit where you learn about it or something. Because I was thinking, well, this is shit. Where's all the great things supposed to be? So I gave up after about 2 days. So I don't know what.
Sorry. I was thinking, to combine the two concepts of video games and, this sort of holodeck thing. It reminds me of that one episode of Red Dwarf with Better Than Life, which is just brilliant.
Yeah.
No, but that they're, they have this, they get a package, and it's this video game where you just walk in. It's a virtual reality, and you walk in and you get anything you want. That's the game. So,
that's a good game. I like that game.
Yeah. So you just think of it and you have it, and that's the video game. So, Dave is off there with the cat, and, there's like Marilyn Monroe, who is always following him going, come back. And they're eating all the food they like, and their golf score is perfect all the time. And they're kind of getting bored of it. And then, you have the other guy who initially is like, yeah, see this hot babe? Me and her, it's great. And then they come back a little while later, and she's like this awful shrill, and they have 8 kids who are obnoxious. And they're like, why did you do this? You could have anything you want. Why would you make yourself miserable? And there's helicopters coming, and the, tax man is coming for him. It's like, why? You could stop this at any time. Why would you do this? And he's like, I can't imagine that good things would happen to me.
Oh.
Whenever it's going well, it always messes up. And they're like, surrender, come with us. They're like, no, I can't. But
Red Dwarf is so underappreciated.
I know. It was hilarious. But
well, it's 1:45, so I'm afraid I'm going to have to get going because I'm absolutely knackered.
Oh.
So it's been a pleasure. I'll see you again soon.
Yeah.
So, bye, everybody.
Have a good night.
Bye. Sleep well.
Bye.
Bye.
I forgot how late it was for him.
I know that is a problem with our international guests. But yeah, the Anna Knitter, who is a German podcaster, I've wanted to get her on, but it's the same thing where it would start at midnight for her, and she's more of an early riser. That doesn't work out.
Yeah, I'm the early riser at work. Which work so most of the group will be up until 1 or 2 in the morning, depending on how they want to conduct themselves. But I'm usually the one that's up at 5, right? And so I'll be like, okay, checking emails, looking around online, who's saying what, and okay, going da, da, da. I get all that done before people wake up. So, and it works because usually what happens is by the time the last of us go to sleep at night, that's when Eric decides to sleep, and then when Eric wakes up is when I wake up, right? So there's usually somebody always awake when Eric's awake. So
is he one of those sleep is for the weak people?
I don't know. I know sometimes folks are kind of wired differently. I'm confident he only sleeps maybe 4 hours a day, and the reason I say that is because there's usually a 4-hour gap of when he's not tweeting online, right? Yeah. That's it. I've confirmed it. I was like, okay, between here and here, no tweets for hours. That's not like Eric whatsoever. So he must be asleep. That must be what's going on.
If he's not harassing somebody on Twitter, what is he doing?
Well, I mean, he doesn't. He'll respond. Yeah, he'll respond to people for sure. But yeah, it's interesting. So we had it's not a really big story, but we had a situation where a detractor said something, and so we were having like this internal talk about like, well, what should we do? How do we address it? What's the proper way to do it? And in the middle of us talking about it, Eric went and quote tweeted it. It's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? It's like, okay, well, Eric took care of it, so I guess that answers that. But
right. Oh,
yeah.
I guess crisis, if that's what it's called, averted. So
yeah. But we were all still kind of like, okay, well, let's not forget this conversation in case something else happens. And naturally it does, like all the time. So yeah. The one of the things I wanted to actually study when I was doing the clinical was I wanted to talk about how the internet has the Lord of the Flies effect, where when you remove civilization from when you remove being civil from civilization, we all basically turn into wild animals, right? And that's kind of what the internet does, because it takes away the consequence of things that you say and do, right? To a certain extent. And I really wanted to find out why people just became nasty trolls. Like, what is it about going online that just like makes you turn into like a little freaking gremlin, right? And I thought that there was something there that was worth researching, because in a way, it's like we're embracing a personality that we can't, by society enforced standards, we can't kind of like dive into, right? But when I talked to my professor about it, she said I couldn't do it. But she said the reason I couldn't do it wasn't because it wasn't a good idea. She said I couldn't do it because I couldn't prove the validity of my data, because I'm basically going after dishonest people and asking for an honest response, right?
Right.
So when I'd have to go defend my thesis, it wouldn't happen. So
right. And I guess, I mean, there'd be no long-term data on this. No.
Not yet. No.
Not yet. I mean, eventually there will be, but as it is.
One day.
And then we'll have something. Right, the different levels of internet development, weirdly enough, creates different kind of things. Like, I mean, a lot of people, like the books have begun and the psychological talks have begun on the people of Tumblr. But it's very interesting. It's everybody has a mask. Nobody has their real names. And also, I think dark mode is a contributing factor. That's just my own little quibble.
You don't like it?
No, it's not. It's not as if like I don't necessarily like it from like a eyesight standard, but it's sort of like Frank Capra's thing where when he talks about movie theaters, about how you have everybody's attention for 3 hours in a darkened theater, and that if it's dark, you have a different psychological reaction to it. You have you're more accepting of what is said, and you're not so worried about other people looking at you when you're agreeing or disagreeing with what is said.
Oh, okay.
So that's, I mean, that's my own little personal, quibble, but that I think having, and I guess it wasn't one of the first websites who had dark mode. I'm sure lots of other places did, but the sort of idea of it's all dark and all of these teenage girls are suddenly taking left and right turns. And again, this is my own personal thing. I'm not a psychologist or studied it or whatever, but I think that we have an issue with like you have all of these boys who like boy brands, you have the superheroes and stuff, and they're no longer being served. But I think you had all of the kind of the smart girls who like poetry. They don't really have a place to go. But if you're into very specific fine things, I think a lot of them shuffled into Tumblr. And I think, and Tumblr is a liberal cesspool, but if that's the only place where you can find other people who have those sort of niche interests as you, that kind of doesn't work out. Anyways, sorry.
We used to have LiveJournal. We used to have MySpace, and usually what happens is all these groups end up getting bought by some Russian company, and then they change things, and people end up going to the next thing, right? And I think a little bit because like the effect of the internet on like society has always been like a really interesting topic that I'd like to explore more of, and I know that there's probably been some research on it, but I don't know off the top of my head to the extent. But so I'm trying to think about how to explain this without having people throw like pitchforks and rocks at me.
Well, LiveJournal I knew a little bit of because, okay, when I first started knitting, I was probably 13 when I was first knitting like with a pattern. It was
Mhm.
because of Rose Tyler's, she had these wrist warmers in the one Doomsday episode. They were little cable knit wrist warmers. And
Oh.
I saw a pattern for them online and I very desperately wanted to make them. So I had to learn how to cable knit and how to work it around and how to read a pattern. So
Oh,
I
okay.
had to learn all of those skills very quickly because I wanted them so bad.
Mhm.
Yeah, so it was like Doctor Who knitting and then nerdy knitting and then the rest of it that sort of kind of grabbed my attention that way. So anyways, because of that, LiveJournal had a Doctor Who knitting forum that I would check frequently for different patterns and stuff. Anyway, sorry.
No, you're okay. I guess I was thinking about like um so the way that men and women historically, I'll say it that way, historically work, right? Is that women are typically very community focused, where men are, I'm going to say typically, not always, because no umbrella terms here, are
Mhm.
objective focused, right? So that kind of talks about like their priorities. And with community stuff, usually when you have a platform where people can kind of like share, right? Um, Details, or you can read about details, right? Like this is why like the gossip mags are really like kind of popular, because like, they like to be like, oh, what's going on with so and so. Like, I don't really see a lot of guys going and picking up the gossip mags. It's usually like, some mom or a grandma or something who wants to know
Right.
what's going on down the street and things like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Even the ones that are blatantly untrue consistently, they're still for it though.
yeah, Tom Cruise abducted by aliens. Got to read it. Can't
Gotta
stop
read it.
myself. Got to read it, man. Got to read it. So I think places like LiveJournal and MySpace and Tumblr and all that became really popular with like the female population, especially because that was a place where they could go and share and read up on what other people were doing. Same thing with Facebook, only they don't really give you the blog posting option last I checked.
Right.
And trying to find, I think they're still calling them tribes right now, trying to find tribes of people that think like you. I call it an echo chamber. That's what I call it.
Mm.
But people usually naturally want to gravitate towards people with a similar interest or thoughts, or what we like, what we're kind of keen on, right?
Right.
Like, you brought me here because I do like craft stuff, right? You didn't bring me here because I just happened to like wanted to work on my car in the garage. Like that would have been weird. Like, you guys are knitting, I'm changing out the oil, right? Like that wouldn't
Right.
be on brand at all. Um, and the thing with Tumblr and the scary thing about online and women is that um, when if you go and take a look at the way that women decide to bully other women, one of the first things that they do is they always, first off, they'll go be nosy and figure out where your weakness is, right? They're kind of like
Right.
they're like beta fish that way. And then they'll start to do the slander campaign, right? So be like, oh, I don't really know about that. I know she said that, but do you think that she knows? Like, I saw this post that she did. I just don't know. Like, I just don't know. Like, starts planting doubt seeds and things like that.
Right. Yeah,
And then
it's a very reputational relation
mhm,
between people, and which is much easier to do on an online forum. You
mhm.
can't exactly be like, "Oh yeah, you say that about me? I'll punch you." That doesn't
Yeah.
work online.
Yeah, and
I mean,
when
you can
it's
threaten, but
you can, and like so when and I'm kind of like circling this kind of back with my experience, because when we used to try and have a crackdown on bullying in school with
Mhm.
guys, it was finding the boys somewhere on campus. With the girls, we had to go online and we had to check out like their social
Mm.
media posts, because that's where the bullying was happening. Because you would see like a huge shift in the way that some of the girls were treated at school, and you didn't know why, but then you'd go find out that like Cindy what's her face decided to do this campaign and say that she was sleeping around with all the boys, so now all the boys are calling her a whore and like all this other stuff. So that's
Mhm.
that's how they do business. Now we're going back to the Tumblr thing.
Right.
Thank you for coming with me on this rabbit trail. um Tumblr got especially nasty when they adjusted their TOS and their users on there.
Mhm.
So it was kind of like, well, you're not doing what I like you to do, so I'm going to go ahead and report you to the TOS. And I used to actually use Tumblr as part of my my art portfolio, right?
Mhm.
And when they got bought out by that Russian company, I had a whole bunch of people that came in and reported all of my pictures for inappropriateness, right? But there was nothing there, like nothing whatsoever. They were just reporting me to take my stuff down, right?
Right.
And at the time when they enforced that, they didn't really have like they weren't ready. Like they didn't know that it was just going to be mass abused like that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And I wasn't the only person that had an art portfolio because for a while it was more preferred than deviant art, and because deviant art, it's like I call it fridge art, right? And you put on mom's fridge half the
Right.
time. And now people don't want to use DeviantArt because DeviantArt decided without consulting the people that post their art online to actually feed the art into the AI machine. So
Oh.
yeah, they did that. Now when, so when you're trying to make a picture, you're giving it keywords, so it's searching all the other pictures that have similar keywords. And so it's taking from all of those pictures, but did not confer with any of those people.
Right.
Yeah. So that was a thing. But anyway, yeah, Tumblr basically got taken over by female bullies in a we wear pink kind of situation. So
Right.
yeah. That was
Oh,
great. Thanks for letting me rant. I really appreciate it.
no, I mean it's something to circle farther. I mean, because it's I don't know, it's interesting with kind of with the knitting cancel culture, which is kind of where we were born out of, that it is very much that thing of she's awful, she said something, she's a bigot.
Mm-hmm.
Don't talk to her, don't look at her. If you bought from her in the past, apologize. If you wear something that you made from their yarn and pattern, you basically need to do an apology to her. I remember one woman, she knit a beautiful colorwork sweater with Maria Tuscan's yarn, and she was one of the huge names that was canceled in all of this. And she dyed the whole thing black. Yeah.
No. I mean, I'm working with black, but that's different.
Right. That she, yeah, just stuff
Oh, that
like
would
that.
hurt me. Oh. Every wool spinner that I've run into, like on Etsy or whatever, like they've all been like super nice. One lady like sent me like a care package because I bought like 3 bundles, or not 3 bundles. What are they called? I don't
Like
know what they're called. Like when they
like
send
a
you,
hank.
is that what it's called? A hank?
Yeah. Or a
Okay.
skein.
Oh, skein.
Or there we
Let's
go.
go with skein. I like how that rolls off the tongue. Skein. Yeah.
Skein.
Skein.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm so new. I don't know the terms. I'm like the thing with the yarn that
Yeah.
that, right? Yeah. So I bought like a bunch of those and she sent me like a little care package and I was like, I'm just gonna have to buy more from her because she didn't have to do that. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, but that yarn is beautiful. Let me go get it actually. Let me go get it.
Okay.
Cheers, Drew.
Well, now it's just me. And there was one. Well, thank you everyone for coming out, hanging out, even though it's just me now. DK, as we said at the beginning, is on assignment. And by on assignment, I mean at dinner. Yeah. Here we go.
Sorry, I'm also about to run out of my yarn.
That's good.
Yeah. But look at it. It's so pretty.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Isn't it?
Wow.
And of course, like it got here and my husband said, what are you going to make with it? And I said, I don't know. I just got it because it was pretty. So I'm going to figure it out.
That is the problem. And how the different colors behave in different patterns is its own little.
Yeah, I did like a test with this because it's called Dragonfly. No, wait, it's called Vanilla Tweed. So that's what this is called. But when I worked it together, it reminded me of the Starry Night painting.
Oh yeah.
I really like that. That was so cute.
Mm-hmm. Someone asked in the comments who's the dyer.
It's called Fabric Genie.
The Fiber Genie.
A Fiber Genie,
Cool.
sorry. I can't say words. But yeah, no, she's super sweet. I really like her.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give her more of my money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So. Thanks for having me back, by the way. I really appreciate it.
Definitely. I'm very happy to have you back.
Yeah.
Right. Anyways, we are nearing the 2-hour mark.
We have 7 minutes. What will we do?
7 minutes. Oh no, I don't know. I know. You're busy with work, and you already did a pre-promotional at the beginning. But if
I
there's
did,
anything
yeah.
else
I
you
was just
wanted
kind of
to,
like, let me talk about everybody at work. Here's all their shit. Okay, now I'm gonna put it down.
right? No, I had been looking at that one Conan book, but I need to read original Conan. I need to get
Oh,
there.
the Robert E. Howard stuff. Oh,
Yeah,
it's so
I
good.
I got a copy. I'm excited.
Okay,
But
so here's my crowning moment. My crowning moment was actually you finish before I take over because I've talked so much and I feel self-conscious now.
no, don't worry about no. Just that for the Robert E. Howard stuff, I have many a rabbit hole, and one of them was I read Solomon Kane, went, "This is the best thing ever," and then immediately went to eBay and bought like Robert E. Howard books in a lot, but I haven't read the rest of them yet. I just
They're
leave
all so
Solomon.
good.
I mean, he's excellent, but I just leave Solomon Kane, on the coffee table, and I walk by and wander and like hope that some more magically appears because I love him so much. It still hasn't yet. I'm holding out.
One day,
One day
manifest it.
it'll just like happen. I know there's comic books, whatever. Like, it doesn't matter. I don't care. All of that. It's like, no, I want this book to become bigger.
I want more of this thing. Yes, I need more.
Specifically that.
More. Can I have
But
more?
yeah. Anyways, so it's like I open up Conan and I'm like, I know this is other people's favorite, but he's just not my guy. It's like, no, get through it. Even okay, sorry. So I'm sure I've seen Conan before, but like recently I only re-picked it up and rewatched it. And I'm like, okay, I don't remember any of this. And I was watching it with my brother, and he too read Solomon Kane right after I did. And he looks over at me and he's like, this is the same guy who wrote Solomon? Like, what's going on with all this? And then it goes to, there's a giant temple, and then there's this weird wizard guy who helps him out, and Conan breaks the entire temple. It's like, yeah, that's him.
Yeah.
That is some Robert E. Howard touch marks there. You're not gonna get away from that one.
No. So I made so when Chuck Dixon came to the warehouse, I tried to like not geek out over it too much because I mean he's done so much, right? But and I got the impression that I shouldn't bring him anything to ask him to sign. So I was like, well, he's probably gonna come back next time. I'll ask him, right? But at one point we were talking about Robert E. Howard, and I was like, Robert E. Howard always starts out like this story like the same way. And it's usually like Conan walks into some kind of social setting. We'll say it's a tavern, right? He walks in and he's not just any man, he's a man's man, right? You can't find a more manly man than Conan, right? But you know what? Now that he's here, I know he's here and he's man, and like his aura is expanding and people are noticing him. And the next man, but who's not quite as manly as Conan, is going to be like, no, I can't deal with this. You can't be here. I was the man before you came here, Conan. I need you to go. And so Conan's going to be like, okay, bet. And one bitch slap later, guy's on the ground. He's like, I am now the man at this point, and I am Conan. And two quivering women will come over and like warm his sides, and he'll be like, this is good. And then at that point, a person will come over, and this is the quest giver of the story. It's like, I see that you are a man, and I have a job for the man named Conan. So that's usually how they kind of all start.
Perfect.
But I told Chuck Dixon my synopsis, and I actually made him giggle.
That's awesome.
Yep.
Yes, I'm sure I will see this many a time before I'm done.
Yeah. It's good. I think the thing I really like about Robert E. Howard's his Conan is that there's such a romanticism to like the writing style itself. I mean, it's simplistic in some ways, but you can really tell like this is just a guy that kind of it's that whole like kind of semi wish fulfillment. Like I would rather be somewhere else doing whatever this guy is doing. Because I don't know if you know a lot about Robert E. Howard, but he lived in his mom's basement, and he self-deleted at 30, right?
Yeah.
And his closest friend was Lovecraft. Now I don't know if you know a lot about Lovecraft, but he was weird.
A weird dude.
Yeah, you weird dude.
Oh, well, basically all I know is in reading the little introductions about the author. So that all of that was mentioned. But not at length, I guess. But
Yeah.
random dude living in Texas, writing all these awesome stories.
Yeah. And of course, like nobody really appreciated it until like after he passed away. So it was like same thing with Lovecraft too. Like they both passed away. I was like, hey, this stuff that they wrote it's just under the mattress. This seems kind of cool. Like maybe we should like publish it. I'm like, yeah.
Well, it's so fascinating to me. Just like even with the Conan stuff, that it wasn't the original stuff written by Robert E. Howard. It was kind of takes on his stuff in paperbacks for years after. And then they're like, oh yeah, maybe we should publish the originals. What?
I have the complete works. I don't think they're in here. I'm checking. Oh shit, I do.
Here, and I'll roll over.
I really wish I had a wireless headset, but I don't.
Hey, look.
Yeah, twinsies. Yeah. I really
Except
like
mine.
it.
Okay, mine is upside down.
Why is it upside down?
Because that's how you get it for really cheap.
Oh,
That's like everything's there, but when you open it, it's the wrong side up.
Oh, you know what? I'm kind of jealous. That's a collector's edition right there.
Exactly. It's extra special.
Yeah. Oh, Elle wants to know what you're working on.
Oh. Not just showing off the same edition of Conan back and forth. I am working on the Mingling Daisies shawl, and I am just at the beginning of this row, so I can scooch it on back so I can see. This was my entry for the Puritanical Knitting Fun Run. Definitely no relation to our current topic, in which the challenge was to knit something that was 3/4 black for the months of October and November.
It looks so good. I love that.
Yeah, and this lighting is pretty weird, but it is beautiful. And I am on my last repeat. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm afraid to get to stuff like that. I kind of like this granny stitch thing where it's like it's the same stitch, like 2 2 2 3 2 2 2 3.
Yep. I like that too. I like I like a lot of plain knitting, like garter stitch blankets. Just something mindless. Like this is lovely and complicated, and the color work stuff has a certain part of complication. But it's nice to have a project that you're thinking about, and then it's nice to have another project in between to work on without thinking while you're thinking about the next one. And anyways, I did this one garter stitch blanket where you knit 4 triangles, and it's kind of like the triangle that you're crocheting, but a knit version.
It's big.
Yeah. And you sew the triangles together so it then makes a square. And
that's smart.
Yeah. And I was doing like color fade yarn, so it was like fading different colors of blue, and they all came together at the same color and a point.
I love that.
Yeah, but I was stitching them all together, and it was kind of a sewn stitch when they're all together. And I was also watching the season finale of Daredevil at the time, and those stitches were wonky. That was not a wise choice. They were ninjas. I was like, what the heck's going on? And yeah, that is some garbled stitches there. I'm like, oh, sorry about that.
I know one of my projects I was with one of my friends, and then I know we're at the 2-hour mark, so I'll keep it quick. But he and I get together to watch anime on Fridays because he's in Japan, so that's really like the only day that
fun.
Yeah, he's really sweet. But at one point I was like, hey, the next anime we watch needs to have English subtitles because I'm trying to knit and I can't read, it needs to be dubbed, right? Because I can't read the subtitles and knit at the same, or crochet at the same time. And so that was an interesting challenge. We ended up going with the Magus Bride. I think that's what we did. I don't know if you've read or watched that one.
Not familiar with that one.
Oh, okay. It's really good. It's it reminds me of kind of like Token in the sense that we have like a character that we're following, but the story is not about the character, it's about the world itself. So
Right.
so she's just kind of like a catalyst for us to explore this universe.
Mhm.
So which is kind of interesting because that would make it more like a setting driven story. And so I got like kind of intrigued by that. But it's like I keep getting hooked. I'm like, oh yeah, tell me more about these weird fairies that live underwater. I don't know anything about this. So
Right. This is
yeah.
beautiful and fascinating. Please tell me
It's
more.
yeah, keep telling me. I'm curious.
But yeah, I've run into that problem before. I like anime. I don't watch it extensively though. Like if I had better time management skills, I would watch more anime, but I don't.
I ended up
But
having to make it a point because prior to going full time with Eric, I used to work in film and TV. And one of the things that happens when you work with people in film and TV is that when they talk to you about things, they're kind of like, it's like this, but like that, right? And at one point, they're like, yeah, it's like Demon Slayer and Expanse. And I was like, what the like, I haven't seen either of these things, right? And so I actually had to start allotting time to take in media that way. Expanse, really fantastic book series, by the way. I really enjoyed it. And then Goblin Slayer was also extremely fantastic. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel that way too. I mean, you're talking about, Chuck Dixon and his stuff. And for me, okay, as a teenager, I read a lot of Dickens and I watched superhero movies. I did not read comic books. So now I'm coming in later. I'm like, okay,
Oh,
who's
it's
this
so
guy?
good.
I
Yeah.
know. So, and a lot of it too is like if you want to sit there and read comic books and get a backlog, I'm like, this is an expensive dang hobby.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
we gotta figure it.
That's why you got to get the big the Omi novels, or you can go
Yeah.
to the comic book store and go through the dollar bin.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that dollar bin has some interesting covers, though. I'll tell you that.
Well, yeah, I mean, at this point, I've been trying to get the larger ones just because, okay, little I know is that I'm like, okay, with the real comic books, you got to do the whole bagging and boarding thing. You have to treat them nice. You got to do other things. You have to store them correctly. I'm like, can I just get a book and it can go on the shelf, thonk, and then I don't have to think about it? That would be great.
Yeah,
So,
I like those. All right, so I know we're at the 2-hour mark, and we don't have our timekeeper, so I'm going to pretend like I am. Do you have to wrap up, or how does this go? Because I don't know.
Well, yeah, I think we should probably wrap up.
Okay.
I'm sure DK will be like, Anne, you didn't talk much knitting. We did. We talked knitting things. Carrow showed yarn and her project is fantastic.
Oh, I finished this one. I did.
Yeah.
I did this. Not today, but I did it. I got cold, so I made a shawl.
That is lovely.
Thank you. It's very cozy. This room is actually warm right now, or else I would have it on. So
you're coming along with your Rippaverse employee scarf.
I am, yes. I actually finished the last of them, so what I'm going to be doing is putting like the trimming the tails on them, and I'm going to take them next week. But yeah, I'll go grab some. I'll show you. Sorry, I'm so excited.
Oh, that's okay. I'm impressed. You made it in time for Christmas. If I was to do a Christmas time pattern, that'd be kind of not so great. I still remember, while she's gone, I'll tell the story, when I did Weasley sweaters for Christmas one year, and this is one of them. And it was not all in time. But dogs are all excited. Ta-da!
That's sorry. I keep saying we're gonna end, and then I like start talking. But I'm sorry.
Right. I was just saying, while you couldn't hear, that I'm impressed that you got your Christmas projects well in advance. I don't know if there were specific Christmas projects, but still, I count it. I'd say it's in time.
Okay, so I couldn't hear anything you were saying because my mic decided to have static, so I'm really sorry.
Sorry, I'll repeat it. No, that I'm really impressed you got your Christmas projects in on time. I don't know if they were specifically for Christmas, but who cares? You win. You get the crafting award for actual things.
Well,
in a timely manner for winter, at least.
I tried. When I decide I want to do something, I like hammer out and do it. So this one, and this was the first one I did, so it's not perfect, and you can tell because the line is crooked, right? So I'm just gonna tell him it's got character. But this is for my friend in Japan because he said he wanted something to keep his neck warm under his jacket. So this one's for him. This one is actually for my friend's daughter because she's not very old. and it's kind of like the Starry Night, but it's like super soft. It's really cute. Yeah, it's like, I guess it's baby blanket yarn. I don't ask questions. Like, so when they're like, do you want like lace or DK? I'm like fingering. I'm like, I don't know. Like this one, like I don't. And so sometimes I don't know what's coming in the mail until it's here. So,
right.
But I'm gonna figure it out, because that's when this one arrived. I was like, oh, that didn't look like the picture. I should figure this out. I'm such a noob, you guys. You like, it's really bad. And then I made this one.
With time, you're good.
Yeah, and then I made this one striped one with some yarn that I had. This is actually the one I started on your stream.
Okay.
Yeah, so I did that one, and they're all granny stitch, if that's your question. Yes. And then I finally finished this one. So this is a big cozy one for a lady that we have at the warehouse that I know she really likes to like touch soft things. So I was like, I will give you a soft thing. So
nice.
Yeah. And then I have more that I'm gonna mail out, but those are my big ones. So thanks.
Awesome.
Thanks for letting me do my mom. I made this.
Yeah, that's always the best part, though. That having a knitting show that part of it is like, oh, gotta have new projects like this. I've shown a lot of times, and I feel kind of bad that I'm like, it's the same thing. It's been for a couple months now.
There's like a Viking shawl pattern that I want to try, but it like every time I watch the lady like go over it, I'm like, nope, that intimidates me right now. I'll think about it.
Is it a color or is it a texture?
It's like the way that she does it. So I actually tried to practice it, but I think I messed it up because it kind of starts off looking something like this. But then when I was kind of watching her do it, and she's like, and then you pull the magic string for the loop. And then I was like, nope, mine doesn't look like that at all. So I have to start over. So,
right.
All right. Thank you. Okay. I'm done now.
All right. Well, sorry. I'll close up the stream then. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Carrow, for coming.
Anytime.
I mean, it was a great time.
Yeah.
I love having you on. It was fun.
I love being here.
Fooey on DK for not being able to show up. I know she had something last minute. But yeah. Anyways, thank you, everyone. Check out Carrow. She's on the interwebs.
I am.
You do indie author writing stuff. We didn't even talk about that.
And whatever. Well, I'll do it next time. I'll come back.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah. But anyways, this has been Politically Incorrect Knitters live from the Knitting Wars, and we will see you later.
Bye.
I can find the button.
Bye.